Hi, everybody. This is David Rodriguez. Welcome to the All Games New and Old Mic Drop, where I do an interview with someone in the gaming community, and then we have a debate over a not very controversial topic. Today, I have Maurice Andrews Jr. of the Maurice Andrews Jr. YouTube channel. How's it going, Maurice?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good this wonderful evening. How you holding up, man?
I'm doing good. It's been a weird kind of busy day for me, but not a bad one. I mean, I wasn't at work, so that's cool. So
Yeah,
did
man.
did you have to work today, or are you off?
Oh, I absolutely didn't have to work, man.
Oh,
It was
you
kind of a
lucky.
kickback, just clean up kind of day. Play some board games, as you can see one behind me. So it was
Yeah,
kind of a chill day, man.
good. That's awesome. What have you been playing?
Yeah. So as you can see behind me, well, I guess y'all can barely see it. It's Escape Tales. Yeah, for anybody that likes
There you
escape
go.
rooms, or if you're familiar with time stories. This game is right up that alley where you're in a situation and you're just trying to figure out how to get out or solve a particular mystery. It's kind of cool. I'll have a review of that up maybe in a few days and kind of give my thoughts on that. So yeah, it's been pretty cool so far.
That's awesome. I'm dying to hear what you say when you're all done. That was when I was just doing written reviews. That was one of the ones I reviewed, and so yeah, I want to see what you think about it because you and I occasionally have differences of opinion, not that often. So let's see. So you've had your YouTube channel for has it been over a year now? I
Nah,
feel like it
man.
has, but really?
Man, tell me about it, bro. Man, since February, so almost
Okay.
7 months. Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting there. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So I think I'm jumping the gun talking about your YouTube channel because first I kind of want to know how you got into this hobby because everyone's path is a little different and it's kind of a crazy one to get into in a way. And I'm curious, like, how you jumped into this.
Yeah, man, I think everybody started off with those. Shout out to Hasbro and Milton Bradley. I think everybody started there with Monopoly, Life, Sorry, or depending on your age, chess. But that's kind of like the surface level because I look at getting into board game kind of a complex question or loaded question, shall I say? Because there's like the surface level Milton Bradley Hasbro games, and then there's getting into the hobby where
Right.
you're starting playing games like what's behind you, right? So, I started when I was younger. That's when my family played, and of course, uh, I don't know if this is just a, a black thing or not, but everybody in my family knew how to play spades,
Okay.
dominoes. So those were like the big tabletop games for me. And when I started getting into the hobby, getting past that surface level, was my friends introducing me to board games. We had a connection playing video games, and then they invited me over to play Terra Mystica because
Wow.
they knew I knew how to play Civilization. So they figured I would, pick up Terra Mystica pretty quickly, which I didn't. But I got through
Yeah.
the game and kind of understood it. My scoring wasn't too bad, but of course there was that one person that just like lapped everybody. So I didn't feel too bad because he lapped everybody and not just me.
Yeah.
So and then from there, um, I guess when I started buying games for myself, one of my friends bought me the Harry Potter Battle for Hogwarts deck building game, and
Well, right.
that
Right.
kind of started my love for both solo and board gaming. Like where I'm invested to where I'm willing to spend my own money on it. In terms of getting the expansion, bought
Hmm.
Aeon's End, and then it just started steamrolling from there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I haven't tried the Harry Potter one yet. Someday I'll need to give that a shot. But that one's kind of like episodic, right? Don't you do like the first movie and then it gets more complicated as you go? Is that right?
Yeah, and the characters that you see in those seven chapters are in those books and movies. So you
Right.
won't play against Fenrir till later. So it's kind of
Okay.
cool to uh I guess kind of unlock the different uh allies and the different villains that you're going up against, and then you go all the way to Voldemort, and then there's two extra levels of Voldemort where you can do the epic battle, go up against every
Okay.
single villain, and that normally takes like 2 hours
Oh my
to play.
god.
But
Wow.
it's a cool, simple system. It's similar to Marvel Legendary, where you draw some cards, you spend some resources to kind of build up your deck, and then thin it down to where you can get those big combos later on, and then you got the villains that do nasty stuff on their turn. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's pretty standard in terms of what you would expect out of a deck builder,
yeah.
but it's
Right
fun.
on. Cool. But it's not like is it like a campaign game? Like, are you keeping your deck from one uh adventure or whatever to the next, or is it you start from scratch every time you get to a new chapter of the game?
Yeah, you start from scratch every single time,
Okay.
and they have asymmetric heroes as well. So
Okay.
Harry played his is more about removing counters from the location, because the villains try to put these I forget what they call, but they try to put these counters onto the locations, and once you get too many, it goes to the next one, and then more bad stuff start happening. So he's all about removing from there. Run is all about getting allies in his hand because he can do
Hmm.
more damage depending on how many allies he have in his hand. Neville's all about healing people, so it's everybody's kind of different. It's pretty cool, man.
Right on. Well, I do love deck builders, so sometime I need to give that a try. But I'm still in the back of my brain while we're talking about this, I'm going back to you jumping from like spades and dominoes to Terra Mystica like that. I can't like okay. I only know Terra Mystica by reputation. I have not played it yet myself. I'm debating whether or not to make the plunge on that one. But like, were you? I mean, did you feel overwhelmed getting into that? Because that seems like such a crazy jump.
Yeah, and I think if I played with any other group of people, it wouldn't have happened because my
Right.
friends are very patient. At least that gaming group I was with,
Right.
and um, it's definitely a complex game. It's not one I would recommend to people, but I think because I played Civilization so much and the complexities of that game, where everything all about engine building, that's what I love, and that's something in a board gaming sense I was able to pick up. It like I knew, and for me, when I play new games, I don't expect to win on the first
Right.
try. So for me, it's all about learning, picking up the mechanics, and do whatever. So I don't care what the ending score was. So for me, it was just a learning experience. I do recommend, if you know somebody that have it, to play with them just to kind of see if that's your lane. I definitely wouldn't recommend anybody buying that one because it is an acquired taste. But I just
Yeah.
happen to
Yeah.
like Euros. Like that's my thing. So
Right.
and then this one is kind of area control-ish too, but
Right. Right.
um yeah, it's cool, man. I would definitely recommend trying it. I don't know that I can name another game like it. I think the closest maybe Terraforming Mars. If you like
Okay.
Terraforming Mars, you may like Terra Mystica. So it's a cool game if you like that realm of gaming.
Yeah, you know what? I actually like fairly complicated games sometimes, but I think when I first heard about this, I heard about it on a podcast and they were talking about it, and I was like, this sounds way over my head. And like, even though now it probably wouldn't be, like my brain is still telling me that one's way over your head. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to get that and be, I don't know, in bed with a migraine after trying to figure out the rules. But
Have
I
you
don't
ever
know.
played Twilight Imperium?
Yes, I played it once.
How were you able to pick that game up?
It was okay. You know, the nice thing is well, that game, it always has to be kind of scheduled ahead of time. Like nobody just says, "Hey, let's
Facts.
play Twilight Imperium at the spur of the moment." That's not how that one works. But
Facts.
you know, I watched how-to videos. I watched or I read the rules, and then when I got there, they did a like an overview, which was good because they had. I think he used all the expansions that were out, and I hadn't read about all those, so
Mm,
I don't even know what they added and what wasn't there before. But
neither do I, brother.
yeah, that was a 15 and a half hour game, and
Jeez.
oh boy. It was good though. It was fun. I'm glad I did it, but like man, that's a big thing right there.
Yeah, so I think if you can pick that game up, you can pick any game up.
Yeah.
Because I know that there are some games that are kind of ridiculous with
Hmm.
like the amount of stuff that can happen in one turn.
Right.
Looking at games like Barrage and
Hmm.
um, Brass, like those games that are just super heavy with the Euro style. But or even they played City of Gears.
I've not.
Like that's another one that there's a lot of little intricacies you got to keep up with and hope that you're playing with some honest people that'll let you know if you miss something.
Right.
But it's I think Terra Mystica is a little easier to pick up, but it is one of those heavier games. If
Right.
you got somebody that have played it quite a bit and you're okay with potentially just getting smashed that first game and just picking up the game, I think it's worth the shot, man. It's a cool one.
Yeah. Honestly, I get smashed almost every game I play of literally anything, so it doesn't even matter. So it's
Likewise, man.
yeah,
I'm here to have
it's
fun, bro.
yeah. No, my wife absolutely destroys me at almost every game. We went we got to play Tabriz, which is the new game by Randy Flynn coming to. I'm not
Oh
sure if
yeah.
it's Kickstarter or game bound, but in the next few weeks here. And so it was me, my wife, the designer, and then like a couple other guys, and my wife beat everybody on that one. Like I feel like I'm not that great at games, and then she is like excellent at games. So I have to be really good about just being able to get crushed because it's going to happen a lot. So, but that's all right. So, so you talked about playing like solo games.
Yeah.
Do you
You're a funny dude, man.
uh, you think it's funny, but you don't see me crying in the corner after every game, so you don't. It's more pathetic actually. But do you prefer like I'm all sidetracked now. Do you prefer like solo experiences, or do you prefer multiplayer games?
Oh, I actually prefer multiplayer games. COVID had just taught me how to appreciate solo gaming.
Right,
Because
gotta
I
do
mean,
that.
outside of playing Harry Potter or Aeon's End by myself, like I didn't play any
Mhm.
other solo games. But it wasn't until like COVID hit right when I really started hitting my groove on getting into
Oh
board games. And
man.
it was like, man, like I want to play, I had all these board games that I couldn't share with people, just bought Gloomhaven, and ready to play with people, and then
Oh
COVID
man.
hit.
Yeah,
And and I love Euro games, but I didn't know if there was a market for solo Euro games.
sure.
So at the height of COVID, like I guess the shutdown was like March 2020. Like there were, at least where I was staying at the moment, there were cops roaming the streets, stopping people,
Oh yeah.
asking them like
Wow.
what you on the street for. And, luckily, well, I don't know if luckily is the right answer, but I had this letter from the company I worked at that let me know I was a essential worker, right? So
Right.
I just got to roam around a little bit more. And there was this board game shop down the street. And when it finally got to the point where we could walk into the store, with masks, if you're vaccinated, all that stuff, um, that's when I started looking out for solo those solo games.
Mm.
And so I started picking up, Everdale to this day is like a top 3 game for me. And that was like the first Euro game I bought that was solo. And I played that game so many times and still we're finding new combos. So that's what sparked me looking into more games. And I found out about Robinson Crusoe, which, has this uh double-edged stigma to it. People love it, but it's
Right.
so hard, right? People got
Yeah.
like 10-20% win rates on that
Right.
game, and I'm right there at the 5 to 10% win rate. But it's fun trying to figure it out. It was a Euro that was solo and it was cooperative, right? And that's what kind of followed me down, well, that's what kind of guided me down that road of learning more about solo gaming and appreciate that. If I could sit down and play God of War for 4 hours or whatever, like I could sit down and enjoy a board game for an hour, and it's the same thing. It's changing that mentality of solo gaming is okay and should be acceptable. And that's what got me into looking into more of those solo specific games like Friday and Unbroken, Under Fallen Skies. I just backed and got So You've Been Eaten, right? So and the designers are starting to lean towards that direction where either they're putting out solo games or they're uh they're putting solo variants on games, right?
Mhm.
So um yeah, so so I say all that to bring it back to your original question of which one do I prefer, whichever is available, to be honest
Right.
with you.
That makes sense.
But with solo gaming, like it's kind of nice, playing that escape game where none of my friends are available, or if I
Right.
don't feel like socializing, I have that option of playing that by myself. Especially with these escape room games or mysteries, I actually prefer to play that by myself.
Okay.
But like I think Time Stories and Chronicles of Crime are actually better with people because you get to
Oh, really?
hear kind of the theories that people have
Hmm.
that's going on with the mysteries and all of that. So, depending on the game, I could go either way. But if I know that I don't have the option to play with people, I'm just as comfortable playing by myself, depending on what game it is.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. You played I think the full title is like Detective, a modern crime board game, right? You played that one.
Love
Did you
it.
play did you play that by yourself or did you play that with people?
Oh, by myself.
Okay.
I actually that one I definitely prefer by myself.
Okay.
Um, I think, man, I don't know how to explain it. So with detective, if you don't play that consistently, you're going to lose the story because all of the
Right.
cases are a part of the story that's in the game. So it's not
Sure.
like Chronicles of Crime where you can play these one-off missions here and there. Like it matters, that you play those missions in order. So, and it's the same with the one that's right after it, Vienna Connection. You got to remember those people's names and how they're connected with everybody. If you don't have somebody that's an amazing scribe or historian that's keeping
Right.
track of everything, you'll lose it because you can easily spend 3 hours on one case. So
Sure.
if you
Yeah.
don't if you don't have somebody playing regularly, you're going to forget it. So it's a game that I can play by myself, and it's probably shorter because I don't have to debate with anybody but myself, and I could just try to nail down those questions. Well, I guess nail down what you're trying to solve for that one case by myself, and it probably cuts off an hour and a half of talking with other people about it.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. I have that one, but I haven't. It's on my shelf of shame. I haven't played that. I played with my wife. Batman: Everybody Lies, which is
Oh, I
part of
want to
this
get my
series.
hands
I
on
think it's
that. Yeah,
I think it's not probably as complicated from what I've heard,
probably not.
but even still, like it was. I found it kind of nice to have ideas to bounce off of her, and then like she would remember things that I didn't remember
Yeah.
because I'm sure it's probably even more so in detective. It's hard to know because you get a lot of information, and it's hard
Yes.
to know what's actually relevant and what is just like this fact that is out there, but it doesn't have anything to do with anything. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of red herrings even in that one, and I imagine the regular detective one's
Yes.
probably far worse. So,
Yes, it is.
oh boy,
It is.
oh man,
But
it's
the
it's
story
tough.
is brilliant in that one. That's
Yeah,
one of my favorite stories in board gaming right now. And some of the stuff that they do, like there was one case, not to spoil it, but
right.
you had to, like somebody got captured, and when you start the case, it tells you to go to this YouTube page, and you go to
Okay.
the YouTube page, and it's kind of like one of those like Zodiac killer moments. Like this guy
Oh
made a
geez.
video, and there's like um creepy music playing in the background, and he's putting these papers down one by one. You have to read it like it's cut out of magazines,
Right.
and he's doing a bomb threat, and you're having to hop on Google Maps or Google Earth to figure out where his vans are at. So
Oh
it's
my
like
god.
they actually put, using real life stuff to, and you have to figure out which van that the captured person is in and go and rescue them. And it's moments like that that's just genius that
Yeah.
game does, and the story all fits beautifully. And it starts all the way in World War II to
Oh
present
my.
time that
Wow,
you
I
have
didn't
to
know
figure
that.
out.
Okay.
Oh, it's cool, man. Such a cool story.
Yeah, I got it. I have to do that one. That sounds as much as the Batman one made me feel like a detective. I think that one sounds much more so. I
Yeah,
wasn't
because you're
actually a
playing as
detective, but
somebody in present time that have
yeah.
to research stuff that's back in the 40s and 50s. Trying to figure out how this German SS soldier made it over to the Americas.
Oh
And
man.
they use like real life operation missions to show his actual path on how he got here. It was so cool, man. Such a
Wow,
cool
that is
game.
wild.
Yeah,
Oh man. Now I gotta set aside several hours to play that real soon because that
yeah, man.
now I'm kind of getting hyped up for it.
I don't know if it's the same producer or I guess designer that made it, but shout
Yeah.
out to Ignacy Trzewiczek, man. That dude is a
Yeah.
genius.
Yeah, I know I at least had a hand in some way in the Batman one. I don't know how it's all distributed, but yeah, I know he did at least part of it. So yeah, I think he's a real smart dude, and like he seems
Yeah,
to really like narrative experiences. I mean, he has some that are less so, but I mean, that
Right.
seems to be a real good niche for him. Like he's got his finger on the pulse of what makes those great, I think. So, all right, excuse me. So, obviously, you've loved board games for a bit. How did you decide to start doing a YouTube channel? Because that's a whole other step right there.
Yeah, man. How much time you got?
I
Nah, I gotta keep it short, man. I was just so last winter I was just having issues with enjoying hobbies, and I didn't know if it was depression or not. So, my work program, well, my job have this program where we can apply to get like I want to say 6 free counseling sessions.
oh
So
wow,
I just
okay.
went ahead and signed up for it just to make sure I was all right up top. Like growing up, my family don't really believe in mental illnesses, or at least
Oh
don't
yeah,
talk about it, where it's kind of taboo. But
okay.
um, or maybe we just don't talk about it. It's not something that we don't have time to pay attention to her.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah.
I decided to take a chance on it and see what happened. And 2 or 3 sessions in, the counselor's like, Maurice, you're not depressed. You just need structure around your hobbies.
Mm,
And she compared it because I kind of lost joy in playing basketball, and she was like, go join a league. It'll give you the structure of being around a team. There's stakes at play. There's something at the end if you win. It brings structure to it. So I was like, well, I'm definitely not playing in the little city league, but let me see if what does that look like for board gaming. And then the idea of doing YouTube came around because there was a lot of hot topics going on at the beginning of the year. There was so much in board gaming that was happening. And I
right.
was like, man, I can put in my 2 cents on that. And I love Marvel Champions. So I was like, I can also talk about that, I guess. So I went out. No, it's not this camera, but I had another webcam that I already had, little Logitech C920, and used the mic on that and just started recording. It was a way for me to kind of the point of it of me starting YouTube was just to kind of find a community to
Right.
talk more about board games with, because I don't really mess with anybody at my local board game shop. I don't get to play with my friends as often as I used to, so it was just a way for me to communicate how much I love and appreciate board gaming, defend some of the topics that are kind of hot, at that moment, solo
Right.
gaming, and still being a stigma just in general, and apps and board games, because there's a lot of people that don't like apps and board games. So I made a case to defend it. I think that
Mm,
apps and board games, I won't say a necessary evil, but it's one of those creative ways to keep board games fresh.
right.
So and then from there, and there's so much content with Marvel Champions. I could literally talk about anything that I wanted to. And from there, I got onto Twitter, and that's where I met, you and Jason from Shelf Stories. Um, Rodney at Watch It Play tweeted a few of my videos, and I was like, oh, people are listening to what I'm saying. I might have to tighten it up a little bit. And then so from there, at this point now, like I would say mission accomplished. Like I could not put out another video and I could be a happy man because I've accomplished what I was looking for.
Right.
And that's people that I can play Marvel Champions with online, and people that I can, just like you, chopping it up about board games. Met Riley from the board game community show. So there's a ton of people that I can just go and just chop it up about board games with
Yeah.
when I can't meet with my typical board gaming group or just anybody in general. So that's what got me into YouTube. Well, will I stay? I don't know. I just keep making videos whenever I feel like it, and I actually would prefer to just keep doing stuff like this where I'm just collabing with people, man.
Right.
Like I think
Yeah.
right now this is the most fun part of YouTube now, is just collabing with people.
Yeah, it's fun and it's half the work, which is great.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I hear that. I hear
I
that.
get someone who can talk a little bit on here, and I can just be like, yeah, okay, this is peaceful. Okay.
Yeah, man. I got you, bro. I got a lot to say.
I appreciate that, man. Oh my god, hold on. Mm.
You good, man?
Oh,
But
dying
yeah.
of thirst. Okay, good grief. Yeah, well, so what still blows me away about your videos is I don't, unless something's changed and I just didn't notice, like you don't edit them, right? Like you're not, and
Who
they're
got time for
still,
that?
but they're good. Like it'd be like if you didn't edit them and it's like, well, okay, but he, has all, stumbles over everything he says, then that'd be different. But like I edit myself a lot, and that's why suddenly I'm looking this way, and suddenly I'm like, and I'm like over here because I had to like, I was like, oh, this is the part where I can figure out how to say the word card or something, and I had to cut that out right away. I don't know how you do it because it's also not like you're doing 2-minute videos. Like you do some pretty lengthy videos,
Yeah.
and are you preparing a lot ahead of time? Like, are you thinking through everything you have to say, or are you just kind of getting on there and just saying whatever's on your mind?
A mix of both. So sometimes I think it's easier to do Marvel Champions that way than it is
Sure.
something I have to think through like an actual argument. So like,
Mm,
like the when I did the solo video and a video about apps, I had to sit down and think about it because I had to address some of the criticism to it. So I had to find an argument to balance that out. So I had to think it out. But more times than not, I think some of it is just practice with public speaking because
right.
it was something that I didn't really understand until I started high school, where I had to. Uh, I don't know if academic decathlon was a thing in high school for you, but I was a
Yeah.
part of that in high school, and you had to do um, impromptu speeches. You had to
Okay.
give like 5 minute impromptu speeches, but you didn't know the topic until they tell you what it was, and then you
Oh
had like a
God. Okay.
minute to prepare, and then you just had to go. Right. So I got practice from that. I got practice. Sometimes I give talks in church. So for me, it was building up the confidence to speak in front of people
Right.
and to know how to organize to where I don't like reading scripts.
Right.
So I will have arguments in a bullet, uh I guess kind of like a bulleted list, and I just go down the list. All right, I'm gonna talk about this, get my thoughts out. All right, let me transition to this, and from there I have an idea of what I want to say. And sometimes, because I'm an impromptu speaker for the most part, some ideas that come up in the heat of the moment, and I could tangent onto those, and that helps out quite a bit. So, depending on the heaviness of the topic, I don't need to prepare a lot of times, but it's nice to sit down and think on it so that I'm not just talking some nonsense either, right? I don't want to put out
Right.
misinformation, or I don't want to miss the opportunity to expound on something that may be misunderstood, or make sure that the thoughts that I have been fleshed out completely, so that I don't leave anything on the table for that video.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you've done great so far from what I've seen. So
Thank you.
I'm just boggled by your ability to go, and it makes me a little nervous about our future debate here because, um, yeah, you sound like you've been through the training in your whole life to do it. So we'll see what happens.
Hey
Uh,
man, you better hope you get Marvel champions, man. That's all I gotta say.
I do need to keep this video under 3 hours. Like, let's not, not get too. It takes a long time to upload this to YouTube. The longer it is, so let's not
I
get
hear you.
crazy. So that that's probably a good a segue as any. Let's get to our debate. Okay, so we've reached the debate part of the episode. If you haven't watched before, we debate a not very controversial topic because I don't want to make anyone take on the bad argument of of an actual like serious controversial topic. I'm not gonna do that. I'm happy to talk about those things, but I'm not gonna do it in this debate form. That's for sure.
My man.
So, our debate topic today is whether Marvel Legendary or Marvel Champions is a better game. Now, we both have our actual opinions on this, and if you follow both of us on YouTube, you probably occasionally caught a little banter about that. But we're leaving that maybe, depending on how this goes, all behind today. We're starting from scratch. And the way we do this, in case you haven't yet seen, is we're going to get our sides picked randomly, and then we're going to get our turn order picked randomly. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this in 3 segments. We're going to have our opening statement, we're going to have our rebuttal, and then we're going to have our closing statements. Sometimes these things go a little bit off the rails and they don't stick to that format. And that's okay, because there's no like $1 million prize at the end of this. It's just a thing. So it's fine. It'll be okay either way. All right. I'm excited about this one. This is a debate that I've had with many people, but I'm not going to say, even though if you've been paying attention to this episode, you probably know where we both actually stand. When we're done with this debate, we'll actually talk about where we actually stand on this game, so that we're not misrepresenting ourselves. We'll be clear. Okay, so through the magic of technology, I have a number randomizer here. It's going to pick a number between 1 and 10. So, Maurice, if it gets an odd number, then you are going to be on the side of Marvel Legendary. If it picks an even number, you'll be on the side of Marvel Champions. All right? I'm going to try to get this while I'm not looking at it. Even number.
Let's go! Let's go!
I don't know if
you in trouble, brother.
This is the side he wanted. I'm not in trouble.
You in trouble, brother.
I have the easy argument. All right. All right. All right. Anyway, I don't want to start debating yet. Hold on. Settle down.
We've already started.
Settle down, Maurice. Okay. All right. So now we're going to figure out our turn order. So if it gets an odd number, Maurice, you will be going first. If it gets an even number, I will be going first. Okay.
Yes, sir. Ooh.
Even number.
Ooh.
Okay. Did I say that means I goes first? I've already forgotten. Okay.
I've forgotten too, but you can go. Bro, we too young for these problems, man. That's crazy.
You are. I'm
But I mean, I can go if you want to drink some more water to
I'm
get
fine.
yourself ready.
Fine. It's fine.
Okay.
If I have to take a stop and take a drink, I can just edit that out and it's fine. Okay. Oh boy. Okay. So Marvel Legendary versus Marvel Champions. This is it's one of those things that has existed since Marvel Champions first came out, I think. People were talking about it, comparing them. They're saying, oh, if I have this one, do I need this other one? Etc. I mean, you see that a lot with different games. And this is no exception. You have 2 Marvel-themed card games. Okay. I can't sit here and say that Champions is a bad game. I'll be honest. There might be things I say about it that get the Champions fans mad, but don't be mad because I'm only telling the truth. Okay? Let's just get that clear. There are a lot of factors that make Legendary a better game than Champions. First off, the designers of both games know that Legendary is a better game. You know why? It's very simple. It's right there in the name. Now, champion, it's great to be a champion, right? That's fantastic. Okay? But in the world, there's been many champions of many things. And most of them aren't truly remembered. But you know what is remembered? Legends. Legends are remembered always because their feats are so much greater than a mere regular champion is. And they knew this. That's why when Marvel Champions came out, they're like, we can't call this something bigger than Legendary because it won't be. It isn't. It can't be. It's just not. It's not quite at Legendary's level. They knew that. I appreciate how humble they were in calling it Champions. That was nice of them. That was good. Legendary is clearly the king of these games. I mean, there's a lot of variety in Champions. Don't get me wrong. It's there's a lot of heroes. There's more coming all the time. That's fantastic. you can go out and you can buy yourself a hero pack. I'm trying to think what the most recent. I mean, the X-Men are coming out. I don't think they're out yet, but that's coming down the pipeline, right? So you'll be able
It's
to get
fun.
like they just announced Wolverine. That's really cool. Everyone loves Wolverine, I think. And those packs cost what, like between 15 and $20, something like that. Hero pack. Okay, that's pretty cool. Um, so this favorite character, I mean, we've been playing with it since like 2012, but that's cool that you have it now. Um, and you know what? There's multiple versions of Wolverine, and if we want to do that, we can buy one of our expansions and get Wolverine and like four other heroes and a couple villains and like six schemes they're going to do. Each one makes the game feel totally different, and that costs between 15 and $20. So you have really several stories of several heroes and villains for the same cost that it costs you to get like one hero over here. And when you take that hero home, what are you going to do? Let me guess. Rhino again, right? Maybe you'll get wild and pull out Wrecking Crew. Okay. All right, you pick one of your 8 villains or something that you could play against, and you have fun with that. Meanwhile, Legendary. I don't even know in my advanced age if I can count as high as there are villains in Legendary as you get expansions. There are so many. There's variations of ones that have already existed because they've gone to like the deepest, darkest parts of Marvel, all the way up to like the brightest, shining lights of like Doctor Doom and Thanos. You want to have a fight with somebody, you can do it. Do you want to play as like the Brood Queen and alongside Captain America, alongside like some kind of gladiator Thor from somewhere, and go against J. Jonah Jameson trying to get like the cosmic cube? You could do that. That's a thing. What is Rhino gonna do? The same dang thing he did last 18 times you fought him. It's one of those things. Legendary has more variety. You get more bang for your buck. Every game feels different, and even the designers and the people who name these games knew that Legendary was the bigger, better game. And that's my opening statement.
That was cute.
Thank you.
So with Marvel Champions coming out about 3 years ago, it takes from the living card game system that has been around for about 12 or 13 years now. Started with the Lord of the Rings LCG, and they're still putting out content for it. Um, then followed up about 5 years later, we have Arkham Horror LCG, which is known for its storytelling prowess. And now we have Marvel Champions that have made its debut back in 2018, 2019. And I'll take you down to a walk of memory lane, down memory lane, excuse me, where maybe you were a kid, teenager, and you got to go into your favorite comic book store and you get to choose a hero that you enjoy or a team of heroes. You can almost just put your hand over your eyes and just pick up a comic book, and that's what Marvel Champions represent. There's no overarching story, just like there's no overarching stories in comics. There's a series of adventures that happen, and as David mentioned about um, Marvel Legendary, where you get to have Captain America with so and so, but what that system does that the way that system works is you're getting McDonald's fries with A&W's double cheeseburgers. You get junk food with the way that they present these heroes, but with Marvel Champions, you get Roots Chris medium rare steak with seasoned potatoes and roasted asparagus. You get meals with Marvel Champions. When you get a hero and play it down, you get to feel like that hero. You don't get pieces of different heroes to try to defeat this villain that the majority of them feel the same. You can feel the difference in the different heroes. You can have Captain America alongside Rocket Raccoon going up against Ronan, and you feel like you're in an epic battle. Marvel Champions has been surging every single year that it's been out and you can tell by the every month they either have a new hero, a new villain pack, or a big box expansion. And with Marvel Legendary, they have a decent amount of expansions that have come out, but Marvel Champions is now up to 35 heroes and 29 villains. So it's not just Rhino that we're going up against. We have plenty that we can go up against and create a story. And you have multiple variations to play these different heroes where they feel like them. No, I don't need to play down two Iron Man cards in a row to feel like Iron Man. I can actually build his suit in this game and feel like Tony Stark forming into Iron Man and dealing a ton of damage like the beast that he is in the comic books. So Marvel Legendary, albeit is a decent game, it has stood the test of time. They're still coming out with expansions, with the Black Panther expansion coming out this year, which is impressive considering how long it's been out. But Marvel Champions is approaching, if not have already passed, Marvel Legendary and amount of content that has come out, and we haven't even gotten to X-Men yet, and that's on the horizon. So Marvel Champions is the unstoppable force and the immovable object. It's a train that's rolling right now, and it's hard to stop. But yet, it will not be moved when it's all said and done. Marvel Champions is already a staple within board gaming, and one of the best parts about this game is not even the design itself, but the community that's around it, with the amount of Facebook groups and Discord channels that revolve around this game that you're able to play with anybody across the world. Marvel Champions is the new standard.
It's very nice. Excuse me. Drink break.
You're gonna need all that water, brother.
Oh no, I'm fine. I'm doing great. So there's some things that I have to give to champions. Not even being a wise ass here. I'm not. No. You'll even agree with at least this first part of it. I'm sure you will. You can tell me if I'm wrong. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth here, Maurice. Now, look, I'm a very theme-orientated person, and I think Champions does a great job at theme. It does better at theme than Legendary does. I'll admit that. I mean, it hurts me to say it. Deep down in my heart, it does. It is very nice that you can, excuse me, flip over to like the alter ego side, and then the bad guys don't come after you because why would they be attacking Peter Parker or whatever, right? That's real smart. It's good. It does do a great job of capturing, the feel of being a specific character. I get that. And certainly Marvel is known for a lot of its very popular characters like Spider-Man, like Iron Man. But the issues of the comics that are the most popular, the ones that people scoop up off the newsstand or wherever the heck they get their comics from, the online whatever app, I don't know. I'm behind the times on that one. But the ones that people want to see are the crossovers and the big team books like the Avengers and the X-Men. Now, again, you could play the Avengers and soon you'll be able to play the X-Men and Champions. That's great. That's cool. That is cool. But you're going to play like just Storm, and like you're limiting yourself a lot with Champions. You are controlling one person. That's cool. But wouldn't you rather be in control of an entire team? Wouldn't you rather have the X-Men under your control instead of just like an X-Man? I mean, I would. I think I read the X-Men comics. I mean, Wolverine was an okay comic, but let's face it, without the X-Men, no big deal. And Legendary gives you that opportunity. Now, I admit, it is not as thematic, at least not out of the box, not what it's telling you, even though I feel clearly it is obvious that you are Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. directing these battles. You're helping the heroes overcome whatever the obstacle is. I think it's very obvious, even though the instruction doesn't tell you. It assumes that its players are smart enough to figure that out. I'm not saying the people who play Champions aren't. I'm not saying it. Now, let's give Champions something else. I am a generous person in these debates. I went I didn't have to do much research, but there is something that I didn't just know from my heart. Okay, I had to go look on BGG and see where these games are ranked. And I don't remember the exact number. I'm going to ballpark it. Either way, uh, it's not going to be way off. So, Legendary was like 213 or something, right? In that ballpark. Okay. Now, Champions, I believe, was down at like, or up at, depending on how you want to look at
Yeah,
it.
it's
Number,
weird.
I'm never sure how to say it. Is that like 36, right? That's a really high ranking. That's higher than Legendary. I can't argue with that number. That's true. It's how it goes. I mean, these are based on people's ratings on BGG, right? So more
Right.
people have rated, or at least higher percentage, I guess, however the algorithm works, have rated Marvel Champions as higher. Can't get around that. But it's not as if BGG comes to everyone's door, pounds on it, and demands you give them an answer. Which of these is better? How do you rate these games? They don't do that. The people who go to BGG to rate games have time to go to BGG and rate games because they don't really want to play the games that they have because they're not that great. The people playing Legendary are playing Legendary. They don't have time to go on BGG and like write these things. No, they're too busy trying to figure out the perfect combo to take down Galactus. They don't have time for that junk. No, they're playing their game because it is enjoyable. The people who go on BGG are like, oh yeah, that one time I played, I guess that was cool. That was, and I bet, I have not read this, but I bet the written reviews, 90% of them are like, thank God this is much more simple than Legendary. That's my theory. I'm not saying, again, anything about the intelligence of people who play Champions. That's not it. Everybody needs a starter game, and I think Champions is great for that. So, now let's pretend we're in a world where when people get a game they just sit there and they just play it over and over and over again, and that's what they do from the time they wake up to the time they go to sleep. They play it over and over again. God, that sounds like an amazing dream. I would love that. So, Marvel Legendary has a bit of a setup. Marvel Champions has a bit of a setup.
Right.
They both do. Now, it'd seem that Marvel Champions has the faster setup. That's how it'd seem, I think. You know, Marvel Legendary, there's a lot more decks you have to worry about. You got to pull out, the heroes, your schemes, all that stuff. Depending on the scheme you have, there's different amount of cards. There's all that. But once you do that, you're off and playing. Now, Champions, you figure out your villain. Now you got, okay, now I want to play Iron Man, right? Cool. Oh, wait, hold on a second. I'm not ready yet. I got to build a deck. I got to look at all these cards, and I got to consider which ones of these I want to put in my deck. Oh, wait, that's not that one. Let's put in this one. Okay, while you're thinking about that, I'm halfway through my game of Legendary. I'm building my deck as I play. I'm getting more powerful as I play. I didn't have to prepare all this. I just you know what? I want to be Storm and Howard the Duck and Captain America and Black Panther and Wolverine. I just stuff them together. I'm ready, and I'm ready to start making my deck more powerful as I go. And I have to adjust my strategy on the fly because maybe the cards I want aren't out there yet. And I have to figure out how to get those cards cycled through in the marketplace so that I can get what I need. I have to stop this huge variety of villains from coming down and taking over the whole city. Meanwhile, dealing with the big bad guy. I mean, they're always there. The villains are always encroaching in. You're not waiting for that card to pop up. They're just always coming in. So, over the course of the day, I would wager that the Marvel Legendary player is going to get more plays in unless the Champions player plays the exact same hero and same deck every time, which they could do, but then you're not really adjusting your strategy at all. You're just taking what you've got and hoping it works. No, I think to keep your brain active for all day, you need something where you have to adjust constantly during the gameplay while the threat is present. And you can't do that in Champions. It's not how the game is structured. The game is structured. You build your deck. And let's be honest, at the end of the day, you either won or lost before you even start playing. So that is my rebuttal to your points. I mean, I almost don't feel like I have to say anything in my final bit, but you can go ahead and you do your rebuttal, and we'll get there.
You're gonna need every bit of it after this. So you mentioned the theme, which I agree with you. Marvel Champions is definitely hit the nail on the head when it comes to theme compared to Marvel Legendary, and I think that Marvel Legendary um, does have a, a it has more theme that I think people give them credit, because it does feel more like a team oriented issue. Because I mean, let's be honest, in the Marvel universe, Shield would be nothing without the heroes, and you're seeing it in the MCU for for the more casual viewers, or consumers of superheroes. The most effective Shield person is Nick Fury, and what is he effective at? Assembling teams. So, and a lot of them are heroes, and I think that Marvel Legendary does a phenomenal job with making you have some semblance of the different heroes that come into play, because they're somewhat thematic with the cards that each of the different heroes are associated with, where you have Iron Man more tech based, and it combos off of other text for you to draw cards. Since if you have an increased level of technology, you have the opportunity to produce more, right? And with Wolverine being more attack heavy, he combos well off of doing damage, right? And I think that they do that well. But you mentioned with you just playing with one hero, and technically you can play with multiple heroes, both two-handed and with the allies that you have. And the allies that are crafted in this game feels like those uh the Marvel heroes that you will see. So if I'm not playing as Thor as my main hero, he have a an ally card that allows him to do a Thunder Strike attack, where he attacks one minion, you pay a lightning resource, and he gets to attack the rest of them. Like they have those opportunities to bring in those synergies, as well as having cards while you're playing allies that you can combo with your specific hero. For instance, uh, the LCG system, the living card game system, have what they call traits, where you have cards that have a title that's next to their name. So if you play Blade, he's an Avenger and a Vampire. Well, there are cards that allows you to combo off of Avenger cards. So the more Avengers you have in your deck that you crafted, the more opportunities you have to pull off some of those combos, whether it's card draw, doing additional damage to the villain, so on and so forth. So I think that thematically we can agree there. But we definitely disagree with just using a ton of heroes compared to one where you actually feel like you're playing as that hero, instead of having those tidbits of the different heroes and villains. Um, when you mentioned about the setup, you weren't wrong in the fact that you could just throw together some decks to be able to, or I guess throw together the hero sets that you want to deck build with as you play the game. But I would argue that the theory crafting that happens in Marvel's Champions is both half the fun and half the battle. Because if you go up against Rhino and you don't have a way to mitigate that damage he do when he's swinging at you for a six and a boost card, just to kind of give people the idea of how Marvel Champions work. You have health points that you have to maintain, and the average amount of hit points in the game, for each of the different heroes, is roughly about 10 or 11. So you got Rhino already swinging at you for half half your health on top of a boost card, and if you're not prepared for that's a problem. And I think the beauty of the theory crafting with Marvel Champions is the experimentation of the different aspects. Because if I want to have Thor doing a ton of damage, then I can run aggression. If I want him to protect allies or other players on the table, then I can run protection. If I just want to have an ally swarm, I could just play leadership and just have a ton of allies coming in and out of the game. So there's the variability of being able to play as that one hero or multiple heroes if you're playing with multiple people at the table. So when it comes to setup, yes, Marvel Legendary is easier to set up, but that just goes to show you how simple the game is compared to Marvel Champions. Because with Marvel Champions, you're given half your deck to start with, and then you have this plethora of cards to be able to build a deck to go up against that hero, or go against that villain, excuse me. And the complexity of some of the interactions within the game is what makes this game. This is where the fans of Marvel Champions, the people who have invested in Marvel Champions, this is where that fervor for Marvel Champions come from. I mean, the community is one of the strong points of this game, because I don't know if you've ever heard of Marvel CDB, but they have one for Lord of the Rings, they have one for Arkham Horror, where the community can share decks that they've created. So I don't have to sit here and waste time, as you mentioned, building decks where I may win or lose. I can see what the community thinks about the hero, because I may not understand how a certain hero plays, looking at Adam Warlock. So when I don't understand why this dude is the way that he is designed, I can look at these decks that people have crafted, and you can have a write up on why these cards interact the way that they do, and people can comment on the different decks. Either pointing out if there's something that they don't agree with, or if they truly appreciate that person putting in that time to make this game. Another point, if you type in Marvel Champions in YouTube, you will get a ton of Marvel Champions content. If you type in Marvel Legendary, there will be some seeped in Marvel Champions content that is shown. So, in terms of Marvel Legendary having the popularity of the people to where they have a certain amount of content that's available, the content is there. It just get overshadowed by Marvel Champions because of the fervor that the fans have of creating and producing content, as well as interacting with each other. So I can continue on about the mechanics of this game and why it's better than Marvel Legendary, but Marvel Champions has already won the hearts of the people with the amount of community work that goes into this game. There's even a solo league to bring competitiveness to the game. Marvel Legendary have some nonsense competitive where you can gain some points and stars as you play alone that can ruin people's lives as they're playing. But there's a solo league where they have set rules on how to beat certain villains in a certain amount of turns, and having a certain amount of threat on the main scheme and side schemes, and having health points remaining whenever you finish to calculate points, to where it makes something that's a cooperative experience competitive. So we're always challenging each other on how to make the game better and how we can be more effective and efficient players when it comes down to us fighting the villains. So at the end of the day, Marvel Legendary is not a game to write off because it has longevity. There would not be a fervor for this game if or content being released here in 2022 if it was a terrible game. But Marvel Champions has only been out for 3 years, and it has already surpassed everything that Marvel Legendary has done. Marvel Legendary is not a bad game, it's just outdated. It does need a revamp, a rebrand for it to continue to be successful. But it may be too late once Marvel Champions continues on this train.
Very nice, Maurice. All right, so we're getting to our closing statements here. There's something I was trying to avoid in all this. I didn't want to call out the obvious. I didn't want to go for the low hanging fruit. I didn't want to do that. But at the same time, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out something that pretty much any gamer I think is familiar with. And that is Cult of the New. Now, Marvel Champion's been out for a few years, but compared to Legendary, it's still like a little baby. And the gaming community as a whole has looked at it like, oh, look at that special little guy. It's gonna be a big deal one day. He's so cute right now. We like him. He's even learned to stop smearing his poop on the wall. It's fantastic. That's great. Meanwhile, Marvel Legendary is a kid that just got a scholarship to Harvard. Marvel Legendary is already hitting the big time. Not as cute anymore, maybe. Sure. I mean, you know Marvel Legendary. You know what to expect in some ways. Although those expansions do change things up an awful lot. I mean, heck, every scheme in every expansion changes things up an awful lot. But it doesn't seem as shiny and new anymore because it has been around. But it is still charging forward towards success. Greater and greater, bigger success. Meanwhile, Champion's down there, looks great, is cute, pleasant to be around, and it's got potential. I mean, getting X-Men finally is a step in the right direction. I mean, sure, Marvel Legendary, like half the heroes were X-Men from the start, but you know, it's nice. And there's been like 3 or 4 expansions before Champions even came out with X-Men in it. But you know, Champions, they're doing what they can to get there. They're following the example of its older brother, Marvel Legendary, getting in more heroes somewhat quickly, depending. It seems quick because there's a release every month, but again, 1 hero at a time or 2. Okay, I mean, that's nice. And yeah, you can go to all these cool forums online, and I think it's awesome that those exist. That's great. That is cool. That'll cut down your setup. If you want to get like a cool net list, that's awesome. That is a way that you can go about it. That's great. But you know, it's there for people who are, again, throwing away half that game experience. They're not designing lists their own. They're gonna put half of the brain work of this game, maybe 75% of the brain work of this game, and hand that responsibility to someone else, and then they're gonna play this game with this thing they didn't create, and maybe they'll do great because someone has figured out all the tough parts for them. Good job, Champions players. Proud of you. Meanwhile, I'm staring down the face of Dark Phoenix. Okay, I have picked a team that should be perfect, but you know what? It's Dark freaking Phoenix, and I have to change gears so much as she's destroying one part of the city after another, and I'm getting close to my death, and I am scrambling, and my brain has to work right there in the second, doing the calculations, trying to figure out how I'm going to get the things in my hand that are going to give me the perfect combo that's going to just even hurt her a little bit because she's so freaking powerful. And you know what? If I want to slow down from that match, because that's a brutal one, I could just go back and take on Red Skull, and he could be doing whatever he wants to with the Cosmic Cube or robbing the bank or whatever, trying to turn people into robots. There's so many schemes, I can't even remember all of them. Ruin the perfect wedding, that's one of them. Maybe he's trying to ruin the perfect wedding. I don't know what that guy's up to. Red Skull's weird. What are you gonna do? But I still have to think in the moment. I can't farm this out to some online community and say, hey, here's my marketplace. What cards should I buy for my deck? There's no time for that. Your game will take years if you do that. No, you got to choose right then. You have to be thinking. You're playing every part of Marvel Legendary. There's no way to go out and find the perfect list. I mean, I guess you could ask them what heroes you should use. But at the end of the day, you still have to make your strategic decisions based on what's happening in the game. So yes, Champions, I cannot say it is a bad game at all. I can't say my 3-year-old kid is a bad kid, but is he as advanced as my 11-year-old? Not yet. He has the potential. Maybe he will be someday. That's great. He's great right now. He's great. But right now we can only hope they can grow up to become what his older sibling is. We don't know yet. And and I'm actually making this comparison narrower because my oldest sibling, or my oldest kid, is 11. She's not in Harvard or getting a scholarship to Harvard yet, but Marvel Legendary is like the Harvard kid. Okay, like that is the pinnacle. That is success guaranteed because it has like a decade of showing you it is successful. Champions, if they botch the X-Men, could fold right then. That could be it. It could shut down. Everyone could be upset. They'd lose faith in the future expansions. It's over. Legendary's here to stay. Champions might stay. I hope it does. But it'll always, always be in the shadow of its older brother, Marvel Legendary. The one true Marvel card game. That's my closing statements.
Once again, that was adorable.
Thank you.
As we close this out, I'm glad that y'all could hear us out and to understand that sometimes old animals have to be taken to the back and just be laid down. Like, they've had their time. They've done phenomenal work. Marvel Legendary was out during a time where you didn't have much options on deck building. So it was a pioneer to bring into play what we've seen out of Marvel Champions. Even though Lord of the Rings LCG came out first, with the pioneer work that they've done for deck building and to bring in games like the Harry Potter Battle for Hogwarts, Aeon's End, we've got to see the legacy that Marvel Legendary has left behind um, once it leaves. But just like the old and the new NBA, you couldn't pay me enough to watch games in the 60s because the skill just wasn't there. They didn't have the skill of LeBron James, of Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki, that made this game as exciting as it was. But they laid the foundation to where I can enjoy those superstars. But these superstars have taken this sport to a whole nother level that those guys in the 60s couldn't do because their skill wasn't there. And that's the comparison to Marvel Legendary with Marvel Champions. Marvel Champions is showing Marvel Legendary what fervor behind its fan base looks like, what communication with each other looks like. I don't know that it's possible for me to hop on my webcam and play Marvel Legendary with David. I don't know that I can do that, but I can play Marvel Champions with him. And no, I don't have to build a deck with him because I know that since he's played Marvel Champions, he's intelligent enough to craft his own deck, that he don't need Marvel CDB to go and craft a deck, but he can learn how to play a hero much more better and highlight the strengths that they have, what's possible for this particular hero. And I don't disagree with him that one misstep with X-Men could be the end of Marvel Champions. But we've had missteps with Hulk. We've had missteps with Wrecking Crew. We had missteps, allegedly, with the Galaxy's Most Wanted box. And yet Marvel Champion is still at its strongest. Arguably its best year is happening right now, where we have heroes who are all unique and can play well in multiple aspects that we've seen this year. The villains, there's not something that we haven't seen before, but they have given us a new experience every single time. So what we're seeing with Marvel Champions, what we're seeing with the X-Men that has now come into the fray, we didn't need X-Men to be here, but X-Men is the cherry on top. We already are doing our victory lap around Marvel Legendary, and we just got started. Have y'all ever seen the movie Shazam? We are Shazam going up against Dr. Thad. he thought he had everything with the deadly sins, but all it took was a 12-year-old child to defeat him and the people around him. And that's what Marvel Champions is. It's that immovable object and the unstoppable force. The fervor will continue to grow. The content that comes out from Marvel Champions will continue to grow. And I know that there's one thing that I can do with Marvel Champions that I can't do with Marvel Legendary, and that's go to a conference that's specific to Marvel Champions. So if you watch if you watch this video and you've made it this far, and you had an opportunity to go to the Con of Heroes, I'll see you next year. I don't know that I can see you at a conference specific to Marvel Legendary. Mic drop.
All right, Maurice, nicely done, man. I gotta say, this actually I found it to be the most difficult one, both because you're very passionate about the side you actually took, which we can get into more. I mean, that's part of it, but also I'm kind of a care bear, so sitting here and yucking someone's yum is really like, it's really contrary to like my in any like.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing to like fire little goofy shots on Twitter, which hopefully everyone knows I'm just being ridiculous.
Yeah, we both clowning.
But it's another thing to be sitting here and looking at you and being like, yeah, you got to be dumb to play champion. Listen, I don't feel that at all.
Right.
Let's not all get angry. This is I tend to go for the over the top arguments. That's all that is.
Yeah.
All right. So I think you know our general sides on it, but I mean, you know, yeah, I guess people can tell you love champions.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like I'm trying to remember where I heard you talk about Legendary, and it just didn't hit with you at any point, right? Like it just kind of didn't do the trick for you. Is that right?
I thought it was okay. Like I think the problem is I haven't played any of the expansions, right? So
yeah,
the system itself is fine by itself, but I think that's a game that definitely need expansions like at this point in deck building, because you look at, because I was gonna talk about the comparisons between Marvel Legendary and Aeon's End, but I was like, I already got this debate in the bag, so I'll leave it alone. But with because you look at Aeon's End, it does the same thing, right? But it has the variable turn order, so you don't know once you and the nemesis go up against each other, and you shuffle that variable deck, you don't know who's going next. Right. And I think that's such it's an exciting way to both win and lose, because you're like, oh, I got the perfect hand, and then you see that red and black nemesis card flip over. You're like, dang, I had this dude, but it has the variability of turn order. It has the breaches, you know, so you're not just focusing on doing damage. You're trying to prepare yourself to be able to do more awesome things down the road, not just with cards, but with the breaches themselves, so that you can fire off more dangerous spells and do cool things with the relics and whatnot. And I think that's where Marvel Legendary kind of lacked. But once again, I haven't played all the expansions, so a lot of those issues that I have with Marvel Legendary could already be addressed. I just don't know what expansion to start with, because that's another money sink with the amount of expansions that's out. So like, if somebody was like, Maurice, buy these 5 expansions, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Yeah. Because now that I played through the original game, and I'm assuming it's the majority of the original game, because one of my friends bought it for me for this past Christmas. And there is one set that looked like it's maybe missing cards, but it's Deadpool, so I don't know if that might have been an expansion. Yeah, but
maybe.
So I mean, which was fine. Like, that didn't deter from the experience. But I think that if I played some of the expansions, maybe they address some of those issues and have brought on more for that game to evolve, because the base game itself is relatively outdated. And I think that there are other deck builders that's out right now that are doing that and then some. And I think that that's where maybe Marvel Legendary if they don't put out a new game, they got to find a way to keep people entertained. Because I don't know what the release schedule of Marvel Legendary is like, but
Yeah.
I can't speak too much on it. So when I saw I had Marvel Champions, man, I was so happy, bro. I was over here sweating bullets. I was like, I have no, because this debate would have went totally different if I had
Yeah.
Marvel Legendary, man. It would have been
Yeah.
bad.
I
It would
was
have been
trying to
bad.
think of like good arguments and like the tough thing is I mean you're much more knowledgeable about champions than I am. Like I like the game a lot, but you're like in deep with it. But I like the game. I'm trying to remember when we did our top 50. This is weird. I think it was either number 8 or 13. I don't know why I can't be one of the ones in between. But and and chances are I'm wrong anyway. I don't know, but it was definitely in the top 50, right? Like
Right.
it is a great game. I cannot sit here and honestly say like no,
Yeah.
this is not a good game. And when it came out for a long time, I didn't buy it, even though I heard great things. Not because I thought, well, these great things are not true. It's actually because like I have sunk so much into Legendary now that if I get
Right.
champions and it makes me leave Legendary behind, I'm gonna be so ticked off that I spent all that money on. You know what I mean? I've already
Right.
put so much money into it, so I was a little afraid to jump in there and do that. And it's conceivable that if I play champions a lot more than I have, if I get into it as deep as you have, it could surpass legendary for. I don't know. It's really
Right.
hard to say because part of it is I've played legendary for so long. It's almost
Right.
it's like comfort food, right? So
Yeah.
like whether it is like, and there are flaws with legendary that I won't admit in a Twitter argument or in a debate, but they are there for sure. There's a number of them. Like the competitive thing doesn't make any damn bit of sense to me. Like we don't even look at those points because
Oh, I never
it
do as
it
well.
it doesn't make sense to me at all.
I think it
That's
detracts
why.
from what the game is supposed to be.
Yeah, and there's only
And
like
I
really
think
a
it's fun. It's something that's fun, but like I
yeah,
feel like they made it. They made the design and then they just added that on as kind
yeah,
of more bragging rights on who did more, like who
right,
who was the carry in the game kind of
yeah,
thing. But like
yeah.
whatever, man, we won.
Yeah, I don't get. I mean,
Yeah.
some of those, depending on who you're up against and who you have, like some of those are too tough to be trying to outdo each other. Like you kind of need to work together to get it all to work out well. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, I think thematically, Champions is freaking incredible. Like it's really good. Like I think it's so smartly done, and it doesn't seem like it should be possible in a way to make it as thematic as it is. And legendary, like you can be like, oh yeah, well this power makes sense too, and it's there, but not as strongly. And I think you know they they made it so you can have like a bajillion characters, which they do, which I do like about it. But at the
Right.
same time, it's like you can only get so haywire into different directions if
Right.
you are doing that many. I don't know how many characters that I might never even play with. Who knows? Because there's a lot at this point, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just is what it is. Um, but yeah, I yeah,
Has
I don't
has
know.
Marvel Legendary? So one thing that I appreciated about Legendary Encounters
Mm,
over Marvel Legendary is that they have asymmetric like player roles. Have they ever
oh
developed that from Marvel Legendary? Because there was like when I played with my friend, like I was like one of the what's the company in the game? Waycor or whatever it
yeah,
is in Alien. Like I was one of the executives, so I had the opportunity to like draw and discard, looking for more people to help me out. And he was like
right.
a mechanic where he can, you know, buy stuff for less because he can craft stuff faster. And I was like, that's what Marvel Legendary is missing. Like
Mm,
you like if we hopped in the game of Marvel Legendary, like you should be like maybe Captain America and I could be Nick Fury. And I would get more bonuses by having shield related cards or something like that. Like I think that's part of what Marvel Legendary is missing. And once again, it could be addressed in the expansion that I'm not aware of. But
right.
I think it's little things like that because I think the system itself is still a really good foundation.
Mm.
I think they still have something. It's trying to how to figure out how to modernize it and make it fit to where you can compete with the Aeons in or I don't even know what other deck builders are out there.
There's a horde of them. There's so
Yeah,
many.
like
It's
there's
crazy.
Helionox and all those other ones, Dominion, like
Right.
they're missing those different aspects to make the game feel a little more fresher and modernized. So that's legit my biggest concern with Marvel Legendary. And I think that they could rebrand it and put out a new one next year. Like
Yeah.
just come up, look at what deck building is doing, where it's going, and maybe not imitate but use it to influence the new mechanics that
Mm.
that can make the game feel more modern and fresh. Like I don't
Yeah.
think they're far from it, but it's enough to where you can play Marvel Legendary and be like, oh, that was okay, and then you play Aeon's End and it's like, oh, there's so much going on. Like there's all these breaches and all these different monsters
Yeah.
hopping all out. Like what's going on?
Yeah.
So I think that's what Marvel Legendary is missing for me. And I
Yeah.
think that I don't know that it would take a lot to fix that, but I don't know. Like I don't think that it's a bad game. No, it's
Yeah.
definitely when you think of deck builders in Legacy, Marvel Legendary is there. Like you can't mention deck building without not mentioning um Marvel Legendary.
Right. Yeah, I don't think they've done quite what you're talking about. I think that does seem like it'd be okay. I'm not a game designer, right? But like, that seems like it'd be something they could implement, where like you get this starting difference. I don't. It doesn't seem like that'd be impossible to do. They have added from the base set more variety in terms of like there's bystanders that you can rescue that will give you a certain ability, or there's sidekicks that you can get depending on the expand. I don't even
Oh,
remember
there
where
we
they came
go.
from now because I
Okay.
got them all together. So you can get some variety added in that didn't exist before beyond just the heroes you pick or whatever. But um, yeah, legendary at its core is really just like what I call like a it's just a basic deck building game. It's there's after Dominion a lot came out, and
Right.
there's always little differences, but it's definitely in that mold. Luckily, I like that that basic structure, and then with all the schemes and villains, like I could play 10 games of it, and none of them will really feel the same to me because
Yeah.
how everything is affecting everything is different. But it is still at its core, a basic deck building game. Whereas now we have things like Lost Ruins of Arnak and Dune Imperium and whatever that are mixing the deck building in with other things. So
Didn't even
I think
think about those.
it's going to be tough for people maybe to keep going back to like the basic deck building type of thing when
Yeah.
that is now just like a mechanic in larger games now. And Marvel Champions and again, I don't know it as well as you, but from what I've seen, it doesn't seem like they're hitting a wall as far as how they can differentiate the characters, which is fantastic.
It's
Um,
kind of crazy.
yeah,
Because and I can't let Marvel Champions get off scot free. Like it's not without its problems. I mean, I don't
sure.
know how much you've been paying attention to it as of late, but there was a huge issue with Wolverine, like
Hmm.
the adamantium claws he have. So have you? I'm trying to think of who's the closest. Have you played with Black Panther yet in Marvel Champions
I
or Captain America?
I think I played with Captain America. It's been a minute, but
Okay,
I'm
so
not sure
he
if I played
have
Black Panther or not. I might have.
so Captain America have that setup ability at the beginning where you can, you draw your 6 cards, you can mulligan, draw another
Hmm.
6 cards, and if his shield is not in your hand, you can either go on your discard pile or your deck and go and grab the shield. With Wolverine, his his claws, they are a setup like permanent. It's a permanent card, so it
Hmm.
doesn't have a cost. And the way that it reads is, once you go through your mulligan phase, then that's when the setup happens. So it reads like if the adamantium clause is in the discard pile or your deck, then go grab it, put it into play. If you grabbed it out your deck, shuffle the deck. Well, what happens if it's in your hand? you
Hmm.
can't play, a card with a
Huh.
dash in the cost. So that's just a lost cause right there, right? And
Right.
that's not thematic to Wolverine. So a lot of the community got pretty upset about that. It's like, yo, like, what's up with this?
Yeah.
And Fantasy Flight was like, nah, just play it how you would normally play it. And it's like, no, that's not how this game works. Like, this game has, like, my biggest issue with Marvel Champions is a lot of the interactions. There's so many interactions that it can get construed with the rules, and they've had
Oh
to
yeah.
go back and do errata quite a bit of times with
Hmm.
defining things. Like the word you, is the most abstract thing in the game. Like, does you mean your character? Does it means me as the player? Unless they define that, we don't know what that means. So we just playing it to the best of our abilities, right? And
Right.
that's my biggest issue is they I compare it to like a MOBA, like League of Legends, Heroes of the Storm, where it just constantly updates as the game goes on. But
Right.
if you're not privy to that, it's easy to get lost with the rules, and that's been probably my biggest thing. But I think that's where the community building come into play, where people are willing to get together to figure it out,
Right.
because it enhances and enriches that experience that much more when we figure out what it's supposed to do. No thanks to the designers, but I think it's just one of those things. It's frustrating, but I think that that's what helped bring people together. Kind of
Yeah.
like how tragedies tend to bring people together under terrible circumstances. Like, this is how it feels sometimes,
Yeah.
and that's my love hate relationship with it. I think that the foundational system of it is phenomenal, but every now and again you will get this interaction where people are going on Reddit and going into these Discord channels, going on Facebook, like, yo, man, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? So it's been like, I feel like I've made it so far into this game to where, like, I'm just too invested. We just got to figure it out because I've already spent so much money on this that
Right.
I'm gonna make it work. If it don't work, it's gonna work. Like, there's no option. So yeah, like, it's a wonderful. It's my favorite game of all time, but
Right.
it's not without its problems, and they're glaring if you've been paying attention. So, or if you start playing and you like, man, how does this even work? It's like, yeah, we've seen that hundreds of times. This is how it's
Mm.
supposed to work. And but shout out to Caleb Hill and Michael Boggs. They do make an effort. I don't give them enough credit, but they do make an effort on. There's a website called Hall of Heroes that kind
Mm.
of talk about some of these interactions, and they'll personally get on there and try to answer those questions that's kind of tough, like this Wolverine one. So if anybody's watching this and you play Marvel Champions and you're concerned about the Wolverine controversy, just set the Wolverine clause aside and play the game as normal. Like, don't even worry about throwing it in your deck. Just kick it to the side, and when the game start, or just go ahead and put it in play. It's not worth the it's not worth the trouble that they barely put an explanation on. Just
Yeah.
treat it like the Vision forms or Spectrum and her forms. Just treat it like that, because that's the way that it's supposed to work.
Yeah. So the bigger these games get, the more of these kind of snags you hit, no matter what the game is.
Yeah,
Like, without a doubt, you just can't. There's so many interactions that it's hard even for the designers, I think, to avoid some of these pitfalls where you get a couple of certain things together and it doesn't make sense anymore, at least
right.
not in a clear way. So
Yeah, it's tough, but I think it's worth it. And kind of what I mentioned in my arguments, like, man, I can't give enough credit to the community, and just how people are just willing to help. Man, this is one of the best communities I've ever seen in anything. Like, they're so willing to want to help, and it's very rare that people are at odds with each other. The worst that it gets is kind of like the banter me and you have between
right.
Marvel Legendary and Marvel Champions. It's like that, but with the heroes, because people just hate Hulk in that game, and I love him. I get it. I won't say he's terribly designed, but I feel like he's given a lesser. Um, man, I feel like you got to work harder to make him work. And it's the
Mm,
same with Thor, and it's the same with Valkyrie. And those are some of my favorite heroes because I think their design is cool, but you got to work for it. and some people, it's easy to lose with them, and I think that's why people are so frustrated with it. And the design choices on some of them kind of don't make sense, but you know,
Yeah.
uh, it still is fun to me. So um, yeah, it's not without its challenges. As as hard as I argue for that game, it's not without its challenges. But we love it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, all right, folks. We just told you what we really think about these things. Neither one of us are as angry at the other game, I think, as we may have acted.
Nah,
It was all done in good fun. Please don't yell at either of us if we said something bad about the game you like. We're just messing around here.
I stand on what I said.
All right, Maurice. Maurice meant it.
I'm here
If
for
you
the
want to
smoke,
send him
man.
hate mail,
I'm here for it.
all right. So Maurice, why don't you tell folks where they can follow you, subscribe to you, etc.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a simple man. So if you are on Twitter, my my handle is M_Andrews Jr. without the dot. You can find me there. So if I said what I said about Marvel Champions and Marvel Legendary, so you can go argue with your mama about it. I don't care. But if you, in the event you want to argue with me, that's where I'm at. And on YouTube, I'm not a creative man, so my name is Maurice Andrews Jr. on YouTube. Just come and find me, and if there's something you don't agree with me on, Marvel Champions, or even some of the topics I speak on, I love interacting with people. That's how I broaden my horizons to board gaming and to other ideas. Is I put my views out there and see what gets reeled back in. I just love people in general. So just come by and say hey, or if you got some got something to say about Marvel Legendary, I may or may not hear you. All right, so we'll see.
Just tag me too, and I'll back you up. It'll be fun. I'll help you out a little bit. We need it.
Man, I'm
I love
definitely
our
all
game.
in. I'm
I'm
definitely
happy
all in
arguing
if
with Maurice
Nathan is a
about
part
this.
of it.
I mean, I wish we could compile all our tweets like that at the end of the year that we've done on this, because that could be a whole episode on its own. That'd be amazing. We
Oh, that's
got to work
beautiful,
on
man.
that. All right, seriously though, watch his channel. It is fantastic. He seriously does it in one take, or without any editing anyway. I don't know. Maybe he does it 15 times. I don't think so, but
Mm,
I don't understand. I don't understand how he does it, because as a content person myself, there is no way. There is no way it would turn out half as good. It's insane. So I will have a
I
link to that
appreciate it.
channel in the show description, and I'll put his Twitter handle as well, so you can find it easier in case you didn't write that down or whatever. But anyway, I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please hit like and subscribe and click the little bell icon so you can know about the next time we put out a video. Otherwise, I look forward to see you all around the table again at All Games New and Old. Bye. If you enjoyed that video, you might also like this one.
Or this one.
If you like any of our videos, what you should do is click this little button to subscribe so you'll know about the next time we put out a video.
We'll see you around the table.
Bye.
Bye.